Ever catch yourself like doing something totally illogical? Like buying that thing you don't need just because it was on sale. We've all been there. Today we're going deep on this whole idea of predictably irrational. That's the book by Dan Ariely, and it's really about exploring why we make these kind of crazy decisions and how we can maybe outsmart ourselves.
It's amazing how much goes on under the surface when we make choices.
Yeah.
Stuff we don't even realize is influencing us.
Right. Like there's this whole hidden psychology thing going on. One of the first things it really talks about is relativity.
Yeah, how we never really judge anything just on its own. It's always compared to something else.
And he uses this great example from The Economist magazine. They offered a few subscription options, like you could get print only or print and online for the same price.
Talk about clever marketing. No one's going to pick just print when you can get the online stuff too, right?
But here's the thing. They tested this on MIT students. First, with all the options there, most people picked the combined deal, which makes sense. But then they took out the print-only option, the one no one wanted.
And suddenly, everybody wants the cheaper, online-only subscription.
Yeah.
Just having that decoy there messed with people's heads, even though no one actually picked it.
So, like, are we really the ones deciding, or are we kind of being played? What do you think?
It makes you wonder, businesses use this relativity thing all the time, like restaurant menus. Ever notice how they stick in one super expensive item?
Yeah, it makes the second priciest dish look like a deal, even if it's still too much.
Exactly. And it's not just prices either. This can influence everything, how we choose a house, even who we date.
I remember Ariely talking about a study with photos of potential dates. They snuck in a less attractive version of one photo, like a decoy.
And people always rated the regular photo as hotter when it's next to its uglier twin. You're only as good as the company you keep, right?
Yeah.
But, like, for everything.
It's kind of creepy when you think about it. How much of what we think we want is just because of what's around us?
For sure. It makes you question how much we're really in control of our own desires.
Yeah.
And that actually leads us to another big idea, anchoring.
Okay, I'm listening. Anchoring, what's that about?
Imagine dropping an anchor in the ocean. You might drift, but you're tied to that spot. Ariely did this crazy experiment where he had students write down the last 2 digits of their Social Security numbers.
Wait, hold up. Social Security numbers, how could that possibly matter?
That's what's so wild. Then they had these students bid on things in an auction, like wine, chocolates. And you wouldn't believe it, but those random digits affected how much they were willing to pay. Higher Social Security numbers, they bid higher.
You're kidding. So basically, we've got these invisible anchors from our past messing with our choices without us even realizing it.
Exactly. And these anchors can come from anywhere. The first time we experience something, prices we see, even random stuff like our Social Security number.
Okay, now I'm kind of freaked out. So, like, real world example. How does this play out?
Imagine moving from a pricey city to a cheaper one. You might still be stuck on those high rents you're used to, even if it means living in a tiny place.
So we could be overpaying for stuff without even knowing it, like stuck in a spending pattern based on some phantom anchor.
It's a real possibility. Are we making choices based on what we actually value or just reacting to some random benchmark?
I'm starting to see these anchors everywhere now. Okay, let's switch gears to something we can all relate to. Free stuff. Who doesn't love free, right?
The zero price effect. It's a powerful thing.
Ariely talks about this experiment. They offered people Lindt truffles for like a small price and Hershey's Kisses for a penny. Makes sense so far, yeah. Most people took the truffles.
But then they changed it up. Truffles for slightly less, but kisses for free.
And bam, everyone wants the kisses. Even though they're missing out on a way better deal on the truffles, it's like our brains just shut off when they see free. We forget logic. We just grab whatever's free.
No.
Have you ever done this? I know I have.
We've all been there. It's that loss aversion thing. When something's free, there's no downside.
Right.
Feels like pure winning, even if it's a bad deal overall.
So how do we not fall for the free trap? Any tips?
Yeah, stop and ask yourself, am I actually getting a good deal, or am I just hypnotized by the lack of a price tag? Think about those buy one, get one deals. Are you really saving, or are you just being lured in by that free?
Oh, so guilty of that. I've definitely bought stuff I didn't need just to get the free thing. It's like my brain goes on autopilot.
We've all been there. And marketers know this. They use our love of free to their advantage. Like Amazon with the free shipping. People will buy a whole extra book they don't want just to dodge a couple bucks for shipping.
Okay, confession time. I totally fell for the free trap when I got my car. They had this offer for free oil changes for 3 years.
And you let that sway your decision. Even though over the life of the car, those oil changes wouldn't have cost much.
I know, I know. It felt like such a good deal at the time. But really, I should have just figured that cost into the whole budget and picked the best car, oil changes aside.
It just shows you how free can mess with our rational thinking. And it's something to watch out for in all parts of life, not just shopping.
This is all fascinating, but also kind of scary. We think we're in control, but really, our brains are tricking us all the time.
Yeah, it is kind of unsettling when you see all the ways we can be influenced. But I think it's also kind of empowering in a way, because
Yeah.
now we can see the patterns, right? And maybe make better choices because of it.
I like that. So, what other irrational stuff does Ariely talk about?
Well, there's this thing about social norms and market norms, how they kind of clash.
Okay, break that down for me. I'm not sure I'm following.
So think of it like we live in two different worlds, right? One is all about social exchanges.
Hmm.
We do things for each other out of kindness or friendship or just because it's the right thing to do.
Like helping a friend move or making cookies for a neighbor.
Exactly. And then there's this whole other world of market exchanges. Everything's a transaction. We pay for stuff. We expect to get paid for our time.
Gotcha. So, what happens when those two worlds collide?
Things can get kind of weird. Ariely uses this example, right? Like imagine offering to pay your mother-in-law for Thanksgiving dinner.
Oh, yeah, that's not going to go over well.
Instantly, it's not about love and appreciation anymore. It's like a cold business deal.
Hmm.
Like you're saying, your time and effort, not worth my actual gratitude. Here's some cash instead.
Yeah, not good.
It shows how money can change everything about a relationship. A favor becomes a job. A gift becomes a payment.
It's like this one time a friend asked for help with a project, and they offered to pay me. Honestly, it felt kind of insulting.
Because it felt like they were trying to buy your help instead of asking for it as a friend.
Totally. It made me wonder if they even valued our friendship. It would have been way better if they'd just asked for the favor. Maybe offered to bake me some cookies or something later, you know? A genuine thank you, not a transaction.
It's the perfect example. Even a little bit of money can turn something social into something totally market-driven. And sometimes that ruins the relationship.
So how do we figure out this social versus market thing? Are there rules?
It's tough. No easy answers. I think you just got to be aware of the situation and what the other person might be thinking. Sometimes, best to just keep money out of it altogether.
Like when you're helping someone move. Offering pizza and beer afterwards, that's cool. Waving cash around, not so much.
Exactly. It keeps it on the level of friendship, you know?
Mm.
You scratch my back, I scratch yours. But of course, there are times when money's expected.
Right, like paying a plumber. You don't expect them to fix your sink for free just because they're nice.
Exactly. The key is knowing which type of norm is at play and acting accordingly.
Okay, I'm with you. So any other ways our brains can make us act crazy?
Well, Ariely did this study where they wanted to see if just thinking about money could change how people acted.
Okay, now I'm curious. How'd they do that?
They gave people word puzzles. Some were just neutral topics, but some were all about money.
So they were planting the idea of money in people's minds without them realizing it.
Exactly. Then they gave everyone this hard task and watched how long they'd try before asking for help. And the results? Totally different. The money word people kept trying way longer before giving up.
So it's like just thinking about money made them more independent, less likely to rely on others?
It could be. But they also noticed the money people were less helpful to others. They didn't want to help out with tasks. They acted more selfishly.
Whoa, that's kind of sad. Like money makes us all greedy or something.
I wouldn't say it's that simple. It's more that money can shift our whole mindset, makes us focus on what we want and not think about other people as much.
Yeah, that makes sense. If you're always thinking about money, it's easy to get tunnel vision, right? You lose sight of the big picture.
Definitely raises questions about how our culture, being so obsessed with money, affects things like being good to each other and having empathy.
Okay, get ready for this next one. It's a doozy. Ariely talks about how we make decisions when we're all riled up, specifically like sexually aroused.
Now things are getting really interesting. And maybe a little NSFW.
They did this experiment with college guys at Berkeley, and let's just say it involved some stimulating material.
They basically asked these guys about their sexual preferences and like what they thought was morally okay, stuff like that. They asked them in a cold state and then again when they were, shall we say, in the heat of the moment.
What happened? Spill the tea?
The answers were night and day, totally different. Stuff that seemed totally off limits in a normal state suddenly became way more appealing when they were aroused. Like their inhibitions just vanished.
So they were like saying and doing things they normally wouldn't?
Exactly. And it's a crazy reminder of how powerful emotions are, right? They can
Ah,
completely override our common sense and self-control.
it makes me think about how I act differently when I'm mad or stressed. Way more likely to say something I regret in the middle of an argument.
Happens to the best of us. When our emotions are running high, our hunt system takes over. The rational part of our brain takes a back seat.
So, are we just slaves to our emotions? Is there anything we can do?
It's not about getting rid of emotions. That's impossible, and we wouldn't want to anyway. Emotions are what make us human. The trick is recognizing when our emotions are in control and like cooling down before we make big decisions.
So, if you know you go on shopping sprees when you're excited, maybe avoid the mall when you're feeling super happy.
Exactly. Or if you tend to say mean things when you're angry, take a time out before you get into an argument.
It's all about having a plan, right? So our hot selves don't make us do stuff we regret later. Got to be aware of those emotional triggers.
For sure. And it's not just about bad emotions either. Good emotions can mess with us too.
Like getting swept up in a new opportunity and not seeing the risks.
Exactly. It's about finding a balance. Being in touch with our emotions, but not letting them totally run the show.
So, if we're this easily swayed by emotions and social pressure and all these anchors, how much control do we actually have over our own choices?
That's a question philosophers and scientists have been arguing about forever. No easy answer. But I think this research helps us see what's going on, you know. And by understanding that, maybe we can take back some control.
It's like we're learning the rules of the game so we can play it better.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's like we've been playing on hard mode this whole time without knowing it, but now we're getting some cheat codes.
I like that. Cheat codes for the brain. And once you see these patterns, it's like you can't unsee them, you know. It's a good thing and kind of scary all at once.
Totally. So, what do we do with all this? If we're all kind of irrational in these predictable ways, is there any hope for us?
I think there's a ton of hope. One of the cool things Ariely points out is that we can use this stuff to make better choices, like design better choices, both for ourselves and just for society as a whole.
Okay, now that sounds interesting. Tell me more about that. How do we do that?
He calls it choice architecture. It's basically about understanding how people tend to make decisions and then setting things up in a way that nudges them towards the better choice.
So, we're not talking about tricking people or making them do stuff they don't want to do.
No, no, not at all. It's more about making it easier for people to choose what's best for them, even if they're not being totally rational about it.
Give me an example. I'm not quite picturing how this works.
Okay, so think about organ donation. In lots of countries, you have to sign up to be a donor. You have to opt in. But the default is not being a donor. And because people are busy and stuff, most just stick with whatever the default is.
So, even if they wanted to donate, they might not get around to signing up.
Right. But if you switch it around, so everyone's automatically enrolled as a donor unless they choose to opt out. Donation rates go way up. No one's being forced. You're just changing the starting point. It's easier for people to do what they probably would have done anyway if they just remembered or had the time.
That's so smart. It seems so obvious, but it makes such a big difference. Any other examples of choice architecture in action?
Think about retirement savings. Some companies now automatically enroll their employees in a 401k plan. They can still opt out, but most don't. It's made a huge difference in how much people save for retirement.
So by changing the default, we can nudge people towards doing the smart thing, even if they're not actively thinking about it.
Exactly. It's like putting those guardrails up on a twisty road. People can still drive off the road if they really want to, but the guardrails make it more likely they'll stay safe.
I love this idea of using what we know about human behavior to build systems that help everyone. It's like we can outsmart our own irrationality to make the world a better place.
That's a great way to put it. It's all about accepting that we're not always going to be perfectly rational, but our irrationality usually follows a pattern, which means we can kind of predict it and deal with it. We can use that knowledge to create systems that help us overcome our own shortcomings and make choices that are actually good for us in the long run.
So what's the big takeaway here? If people listening could walk away with just one thing from Predictably Irrational, what would it be?
I think it's this. We're not as rational as we like to think we are, but that's totally fine. When we understand our own irrational tendencies, the ones we all have, we can start making more deliberate, conscious choices. We can set things up so we're less tempted. We can have clear goals and boundaries. We can build systems that help us make good decisions.
It's like own your irrationality and then use it to your advantage, right?
Yeah, exactly. Be mindful of all the things that influence your choices, and then do what you got to do to lessen those influences when they're not helping you.
Okay, I want to wrap this up with a little something to think about. Ariely mentions this event called Burning Man.
Oh, yeah, that big festival in the Nevada desert, all about art and self-expression and community, right?
And one of the craziest things about it is they don't use money there. It's a completely gift-based economy. Everyone just shares and helps each other out.
It really makes you think, what if we shifted away from market norms more often and embrace social norms instead? Could we make a society that works without relying on money so much?
So here's the question for everyone listening. If Burning Man can work without money, even if it's just for a little while, does that make you wonder how much of our own happiness depends on our current system?
That's a great question. It makes you stop and think, is money just a tool we need, or have we become too dependent on it?
Makes you think about what the world could be like if we use the power of social norms more. Maybe we could create a world where people are driven by cooperation and being generous instead of competition and always looking out for number one.
That's a beautiful thought. And who knows, maybe it's not so impossible after all.
That's a great place to leave it. Something to think about, everyone. Until next time, stay curious and try not to fall for too many of those free offers.